for a moment in your mind, picture in your moment someone that you really love. Someone that you would give everything to or for. Someone that is the heart and center of your life. Picture that person in your mind. Pay attention to how that makes you feel. And now, think of someone you really don't like. Someone maybe that drives you nuts, perhaps even that you would say you hate, or at least really strongly dislike or have real problems with. Just bring that person to mind real quick. Don't think too many bad thoughts. And notice how that makes you feel, what you're thinking of as you bring that person to mind. Jesus turns around and says to the crowds, if you are going to follow me, you must hate your father and mother, your brothers and sisters, your family and friends. I know there's some kids out there who might say, yeah, I hate my brothers or sisters. That's easy to understand. But what does Jesus mean when he says that? You must hate these people that probably were the ones you might have been thinking of when I asked you to picture someone you deeply, deeply love. And Jesus says, I have to hate this person like that other person I was thinking about? That doesn't seem right. What does he mean? Surely we're missing something in the translation. So I went and looked. What is the word that Jesus uses there? Well, funny, it's the same word that he uses at another point when he says, you know how it is said, you must love your neighbor, but hate your enemy. So the kind of hatred he's talking about here is the one that we give to our enemies. It's pretty drastic. And yet Jesus says, if you're going to be my disciple, these people who are closest to you, that's what that should be like. What? I don't understand. What Jesus is bringing about here, when these people are following him, notice what the gospel said. It didn't say his disciples were following him. It says the crowds were following him. So there's all these people who have heard of him, who know of his reputation, who may have seen some of the works that he's been doing, some of the things they've heard he's been up to, and they're following him to get a glimpse, to see what this guy is all about. And Jesus looks at them, and he doesn't see his disciples, he sees a crowd. And as a crowd, it's real easy to blend in. It's real easy to be nameless and faceless in a crowd. We don't have to step up. We don't have to be seen. We can hide in the shadows and just kind of go along and come and go as we like. And no one will notice because we're just a face in the crowd. But Jesus says to them, if you want to be my disciple, not just a nameless person in the crowd, but my disciple, someone who not just follows me, but is a learner, whose life is changed by me. If you want to be a disciple, then here's what it's going to involve. And he uses that word hate. But what Christ is saying is he's saying, if you look at your love for me, if you look at your love for God, that love, when set over here, when compared with the love that you give to your family and friends, the love that you have for me should be so great and so strong that it would make the love that you have for family seem like hatred. That's how great the difference ought to be. That the love you have for me, someone would say, wow, the love that that person has for God makes their love for their family and loved ones seem so insignificant and almost like hatred. So he's not telling us not to love our neighbor, not to love our brothers and sisters, not to love our family. Indeed, there's a commandment that says, honor your father and mother. So Jesus doesn't contradict the commandment, but rather he sets up a comparison. Our love for God should be so much greater than our love for those people in our lives, and even for our very selves, that it so pales in comparison, you might mistake it for hatred when you look and see how devoted and loving we are towards God. Christ demands so much of us as his disciples. He demands that our love be so much more than maybe we think we're even capable of. But as Christ calls us to that kind of love, he's really calling us to properly order the loves in our lives. And we might say to ourselves, but if I love God that much, if I'm so devoted to my faith, if I'm so devoted to my practice of that faith, then isn't my other relationships going to suffer? And my responsibilities toward them going to become second? Well, it depends how you look at that. When I work with couples preparing them for marriage, one of the things that I will share with them is in this new relationship, you are going to have a love for your spouse. Your husband and wife is going to be that's going to be a particular kind of love. And maybe, God willing, one day you are going to be blessed with children, and you will have love for your children. And you don't say, I think, that one love is more than the other love, or greater than the other kind of love, because your love for them is infinite in many ways. But what we do say is that the love of spouse is primary, and the love of children is secondary. And what that means is that because the one is secondary, it is dependent upon the first. That the love of our children is dependent upon the love that is nurtured in the vocation of marriage. And if there's something wrong with that, if there's something skewed with that love, that's going to trickle down and affect the love then that we have for our children. And in fact, if my love with my spouse is disordered or damaged in some way, then if I'm not fulfilled by that love, I will seek that in my relationships with my kids. And I will be looking to be fulfilled in my kids and in my family. And that's going to mess everything up. But a secondary love just means that when the one is healthy, the other is healthy. If this primary love is healthy and is first, the secondary loves are going to be healthy. And they are going to be even more than what I thought they could be. In some ways, St. Paul raises this in his letter to Philemon. He says to Philemon that I'm going to be sending Onesimus back to you today. Onesimus was a slave. And Onesimus learned from St. Paul the Christian way of life and was baptized and became a Christian. And now he's being sent back to Philemon, and Paul says, I'm sending him back to you, not as a slave anymore, but as a brother. Because in God, in Jesus Christ, our relationship with him has changed. He is no longer slave, he is brother. So because you have a relationship with Christ, and because you have a relationship with God, your relationship now with this man is going to change, and it's going to be lifted up. What was once master and slave is now going to be raised to a whole new level of brothers. That's what happens when we put God's relationship first. When the relationship that we have with God is primary, it lifts up and raises up all of the other relationships that we have. And it makes them more than what they were. And there are so many things in our world today that want to distract us from that. As we try to live our vocations, as we try to live family life, as we try to keep up with everything that's going on, we are pulled in so many directions. And there is the temptation to put our relationship with God on the back burner, or to set our religious duties and responsibilities to the side because I've got these things going on today. I've got these activities that I'm involved in. I've got these responsibilities that are calling upon me. But when we put those things first, we really end up doing damage. Sometimes we think we are helping and loving our family members by putting their stuff first. We have to pour everything into these kids' activities so that they can shine and know that goodness and be lifted up. But if I do that, I endanger them. I really might be endangering their salvation and be setting them up for hellfire. Because if I tell my kid that these activities are more important than your relationship with God, then that's going to set them up for a lifetime of not knowing what comes first in their life. We end up telling our kids, you are slaves of the world. You are slaves of your activities. You are slaves of what the world is telling you to do and who you should be. You are a slave. And as a parent, I can't do that to my kids. My job is to raise them up, to say, in Christ, you are the master of the world. You are in control of your destiny. You are not a slave to the things going on in your life, and you can order them in their proper relationships. You are a prince. You are a princess. You are not tossed around by the things of the world. And when we imbue our family with that, when the love of God comes first, everything else falls into place. And all of a sudden, now these kids' and our own identities are found not in the stuff we do, not in the awards we win, but in who we are in Christ Jesus. We are not slaves to the world. We are children of God. And so the Lord looks at us, and He turns around, and we ask ourselves now, what does He see? Does He see a crowd, or does He see disciples who are striving to put Him first in their lives? And when we do that, every other relationship we have not only finds its place, but is lifted up and given greater dignity. These vocations to which you and I are called are meant to help us find God, but they cannot overshadow Him. So as we look at love of spouse and love of children and love of brothers and sisters and love of all of these things, we ask ourselves that question Jesus put forward to us. If someone were to look at my love for family and friends and things in my life, would they see that my love for God is so much the greater that that pales in comparison? If not, it shows us where we have to go. And if it does, we're beginning to know what it means no longer to be a slave, but to be a child of God. We are called not to be the crowd, but to be Jesus' disciples, who love Him above all things, and in so doing, lift up all things